Hi guys, welcome to the Young podcast. Today I wanted to go into depth about mental health, and the reason I wanted to wait because I wanted to wait until I felt I was comfortable discussing it is because it's quite personal. The things I'm going to talk about are things that I've not even discussed with my friends, I've not discussed with my family. Like wanajua to hint here and there, but I've not gone into detail about um what happened during that period. And I hope by me discussing these things, by me going into detail on this podcast, someone out there will be able to get something from it and realize that they need maybe to ask for help, or they need um to know where they sana za Y.A.N.G. They need to it's a confirmation that something is wrong, something is actually wrong. Like I said, learning mental health, and the main discussion is about depression, being severely depressed, and we might go into detail about being suicidal as well. Let's see just how it is going to take us. I wanted to write a script ni ikue imekwa like ikue na flow poa, but at the same time mi nikisema niandike hiyo script, I'm sure I'll just postpone it and I'll never get to the point where I'm recording it. So like I said, learn mental health. My name is Hannah. I'm the um Anitra, the host for the Young podcast, and let's dive into it today. Now, where my mental health journey started, I didn't even realize that I was actually getting into a mental health journey. I didn't even realize this is what it was until years later when I'm sitting down with people and telling them, by the way, I went through this, I decided to do this, that, and the next, and they're like, that is you taking charge of your mental health. So when did this start? Now we have to picture me as a very outgoing person, as a very ambitious. Let me use that one because na feel kama hiyo ndio ita relate hapo mbele. As we go on, it will relate more. Very ambitious. Even as a child, I knew what I wanted to become, and I knew if I worked hard, vile watu walikuwa wanasema, if you work hard, if you ace your studies, if you're doing good, hizo vitu zote, if you do everything right, you're going to achieve success. And that is what I did. So I want you to picture me as that young child, very ambitious. She knew she wanted to become someone who was known in the world, someone who was successful business wise, someone who had money. Hiyo ndio the beginning of Hannah, the beginning of me realizing who I was and what I wanted in life. And the reason I wanted to be successful and have money and things of that sort is growing up in poverty. And I am not decorating this as something that people might think. Ukisema poverty, you mean your dad lost your job, lost his or yeah, lost his job, but mulikuwa na life poor, then shit happened. By this I mean you're born into a family where your mom is the only parent that you know. Yeye ndio mzazi mwenye unajua mbele na nyuma. You don't know if you even have a dad. Anyway, you're born into that type of family. She's the sole breadwinner, and she also isn't formally employed. Na hii ni in the 90s, your area, late 90s. She's not even formally employed, and she's struggling. You can see, even as a child, you can see she is actually struggling. The other day, we were discussing something with a friend and also a relative, and I told them I don't have a memory of my mom being a happy person. But as we get to that point, to the point where it'll start making sense, you realize it's not because she wasn't a happy person, it's because during that period that I knew her, she wasn't a happy person. Like she was going through some things that she wasn't quite happy. Ile mtu joyful na nini. I knew her as of course the disciplinarian, and I knew her as someone who was always lost in thoughts about something, and she seemed to me as a child, maybe 5 years old, she seemed quite upset. More often than not, I just saw her as quite upset. I remember also discussing with this same person that the few times I saw my mom being maybe showing a different emotion was can be counted in one hand. Like maybe when she was taking me to school for the first time, when she was talking to a certain lady who was her friend, and some other time when I think she was throwing me a birthday. I don't remember if it was a birthday party or it was because I had performed well in school that we were doing a small celebration in the house. So this is the relationship I have with my mom. I've never seen her being a happy person. And then she is the only person that you know as the authority and the protective, everything that a parent is supposed to be, she was. And the unfortunate thing is she passed on when I was about, I think, 6 or 7 years old. And this one, we about being an orphanage, everything else, we will cover it in depth in another episode. But today, I just want you to walk with me through this mental health journey. So she passed on when I was about 6 or 7 years old. And as a child at that level, you don't realize how much pain ama how much sasa naezaiwekaje, how you don't realize the depth of that loss. So for you, hata mkienda burial na nini, where people are supposed to cry, you're crying. And I think I realized even when after we had buried her and the soil was ikamwagwa on top of her, that is when it hit me that I will never see my mom again. But I didn't realize the role she was playing in my life to that depth. So like sikuwa naelewa to the depth of her role in my life. I didn't understand what she meant. So I knew as a mom I won't see her again. But I thought her responsibilities and everything that she was providing, everything that she was standing in for will continue as normal. But it didn't. Of course it didn't. Anyway, so she has passed on when I'm 7 years, 6, 7 years old. I think it was either a month or so before I turned 7. That's why I keep saying 6 or 7 years old. Anyway, now she has passed on, and then we've moved now from Nakuru to Shags. And by Shags I mean in interior za Nyandarua. And this, I think this is her, my mom, maybe hiyo part yenye sikuwa, I didn't know her as a happy person affected me. But I think the point where this issue started, and the issue I'm talking about is being severely depressed and anxious, and at some point it became suicidal. Anyway, now I think where that started was when she died, and moving from Nakuru to Shags, it was ilini hit, like the cultural difference was so massive. And even then, as a child, you don't realize what is happening, but the cultural difference was so massive that it affected me. And like I keep saying, as a child, you don't realize something is going wrong. So I went from a place where it was competitive and it was rewarded um, to be outspoken, to be able to talk to teachers, to be able to tell teachers if they did something that was wrong. Like kama math ameandika vibaya, you're able to tell them. Like it was encouraged for you to point out things like that. You're going from that atmosphere to from that environment to an environment where you're not even supposed to say anything to a teacher. Like even talking, we used to see teachers, people would stand up so that the teacher can walk. And then this is not a culture I was used to. So for me, I didn't see the relevance of it. By cultural difference, I think what I'm trying to explain is we are coming from Tao being born in the city where everything that was done was deliberate, and the kids were involved in the process. So if a teacher walking by was for you to stand, and in terms of respect unasimama ndio mwalimu apite, as a child ungeambiwa in Nakuru, or the schools that I was attending in Nakuru, you'd have been told, when a teacher is passing by, you can stand as a sign of respect or things like that. So for us, we weren't told we weren't taught anything like that. So a teacher would pass by, you guys are seated, you just continue sitting down unless that teacher was talking to you or addressing you in a certain way. That's when you'd stand and maybe walk to where the teacher was. So I'm coming from that environment to Shags, where you just see a teacher and you're standing. So most of the time I never used to stand because I didn't understand the logic behind it. And I was also the kid that was telling teachers, like, that thing that you've done is wrong. And then I'm also coming from a school where we were speaking, it wasn't perfect English, um, but it was English that was sounding like English, to a school where teachers are teaching in Kikuyu or Kikuyu English, like English that is so affected by our mother tongue that someone like me coming from where I was coming from, I couldn't understand. Some things that they were saying, I couldn't understand. And instead of these people, these teachers, these kids that we were studying with, taking it upon themselves to even try and orient someone like me into this environment, they were picking on me a lot, especially with teachers. I was insulted. They used to have nicknames for everyone. That is not a special thing for me, but coming from a place where parents and teachers respected you to the point where they wouldn't call you by maybe a degrading nickname in front of everyone else. Even they wouldn't do it to your face, to a place where teachers are insulting you to your face in front of people for maybe comedic effect or something. Here, it also, later on, I realized it did affect me a lot. So I went from Nakuru to Ndaragwa, and this is the atmosphere that I'm getting. And over the years, I think it took away a piece of me. I think to date, I'm still trying to get back to the child I was before going to Ndaragwa. It took away a piece of me because kids, being the new kid, of course, everyone knows you. You're the new kid who is speaking in Swahili, and you're also the new kid who is questioning teachers, who is talking back to teachers. And I'm not saying I was a saint, I was a stubborn child, but I was doing everything that other kids were doing. I wasn't out of this world doing different things. I was just doing what the other kids were doing, but also on top of it, I was the one who was outspoken. Everyone knew who I was in school. So in case anything happened and anything went wrong, they would say it was me, because kila mtu ananijua, everyone knows who I was. And then it was easy because already these people have formed a perception of who you are. So no matter what you did, it was easy for them to pin something on me and say, she actually did this, she actually did the next. Kuna makosa mingi sana zilikuwa zinafanyika in that school, especially in our class, that I wasn't even a part of, but I would find myself being punished for something that I don't even know that was actually happening. This, a lot of times, like later on when I was hanging out with a guy who went to the same school like I did, is when I realized, like, a lot of memories came back while we were just talking and hanging out, and we were talking about being in Daragwa and how it was, and a lot of memories came back. So I'm drawing those memories from that. So I'm coming from Ion and Nini, I came. And then on top of it, while you're trying to navigate this environment, Ndaragwa, the new environment, the cultural differences, the interaction with teachers, the interaction with other kids, you're also adjusting to the life of being an orphan. You're also adjusting to that. So keep that in mind as we go on this journey. You're also adjusting to losing a parent, and by that, the parent is gone. That is, there's no question about that. But also the protection that was coming with having a parent, the stability that you didn't even realize you needed is was gone now. Then when we were in Nakuru with my mom, we never lacked. I'm sure she was struggling to put everything together. Even years later, when we were talking to some relatives, they would tell me, your mom was actually struggling. Your mom was actually asking people for help. By people, I mean our family members, na nini. But we never, as kids, personally, I never got to the point where I lacked a meal. And there were nice breakfast for even those times, or breakfast, dinner, and lunch. We never lacked a meal. We never lacked things like electricity. We never lacked, like, we had everything that we needed at that time, even when she was struggling. But now I'm coming from that type of a home to a home where having 2 meals a day sometimes was a challenge. A home where we don't have electricity, so we don't even have a TV, and I love watching movies, so I don't even have a way to unwind. Then we are coming to a place where my grandpa was living in a very small house, so I used to sleep on, zilikuwa zinaitwa debes, two debes that were, they had a wooden plank on top, and then they would fold some clothes on top of that plank, and I'll sleep on it and then cover myself with a few of my brothers and my grandpa's coats, trench coats, hizo mrefu. So this is the atmosphere that I'm coming into while I'm 7 years old. And as a child, I repeat, you don't realize that there's something wrong. You just know there's something different, but you don't actually realize that there's something wrong. And this thing is actually affecting you mentally. So we went from that. And then, like I said, my grandpa was struggling to have us have our basic needs. So most often than not, we were just having 1 meal a day. Now, sometimes even that 1 meal was a challenge. And it got to the point where even studying, school, books, na nini, the things we never lacked were now lacking. So upon I was talking about the stability that came with having that parent that was protecting you and taking care of you was gone, like was completely gone. And you don't even realize mentally that it's affecting you, it's giving you anxiety. You don't, vitu kama medical care na nini, hizo hazikuwa, they were not even part of the conversation, because unless upate a good Samaritan or something like that, they never really, you never really got to a point where you were able to get them. Like, it wasn't a priority. Seeing the next day wasn't a priority. Anyway, so nimetoka hapo, then I went, when I got to, I think about 2 years, 3 years in living with my grandpa, I moved from his place. No, I didn't move from his place. I After living with him for some time, kuna this nun that came to teach at the school I was at, and during the interactions kidogo kidogo, the home that they were having, ilikuwa boys only orphanage, had decided to now include girls. And luckily enough, I was in her class for Kiswahili and CRA. And given my performance, like I said, I was that ambitious kid mwenye, I knew if I wanted to become something in life, I had to work hard. Given my performance and her being one of my teachers, she was able to get me to join the orphanage, the boys' orphanage, as one of the first girls that walikuwa under that coverage. But now, given it's a boys only orphanage, there weren't accommodation for us girls to join. So they were helping us while we were at home. By that I mean I was still living with my grandparent, but now my meals za shule, eating lunch na nini, that was taken care of by the nuns, wanaitwa Little Daughters of Saint Joseph. It was taken care of by the nuns. When it came to my books, my exams, we used to pay 20 bob for exams. Every time we were doing exams, we used to pay 20 bob. Things of that sort, they were taken care of. My uniform, the funny thing was, I didn't even remember this, but the funny thing was the uniform I was bought for when I joined Daragwa was the same one I had when I was in that class 4 when we were interacting with this nun. Na ilikuwa imebit. Aki, it was so old. But then again, everyone else in this atmosphere is also, majority of them were actually poor people. Like majority, wengi wenye tulikuwa nao in that category were actually poor people. So hata kama imebit, hata kama imeraruka, and then there was a way it used to fold at the back where you're sitting on it, and it used to look weird because you don't even have passy to iron the dress. You don't even know what an iron is. Anyway, that dress used to look the way it wanted. Acha tu niseme hivyo. It used to look very weird. And the sweater that I used to have, your time, it was donated by a certain Mathe. It was a nice sweater when it was new, but by then it had beaten, it was torn, it had holes. I remember the elbows were also torn to the point where if I was folding my, if I, inaitwaje, not folding, what can I call it? Anyway, my elbows were out. Every time I would lift my forearm, my elbow would be inaitwa peeping hapo nyuma ya hiyo sweater. So this, my interaction to that with that nun was when I was dressed like that. And then after a few months after now I joined that orphanage, they bought me new uniform, they bought me shoes. I remember by then I was going to school with some certain pink sandals, and my feet, and anyway, it was just pathetic. That period was just pathetic. Anyway, they bought me shoes, they bought me new uniform, I had new books. And then after, also I think an year later, if I'm not wrong, I don't remember very well, but if I'm not wrong, a year later, USAID came to that orphanage, and I remember they brought us school kits. So we got the handbag, not handbags, nakwambia, being older. They got us the school bags, very nice USAID school bags. They were made of canvas. So that bag, nakwambia, this is, if I'm not wrong, I can go somewhere and find that bag somewhere, stashed somewhere. Anyway, they bought us those nice bags, but they had the logo of USAID. They bought us watches. They bought us anything that you can be considered stationery and school kit yoyote. They bought them for us, and I started feeling nice, and things were looking up na nini, and it was awesome. It was quite awesome. Then at some point, another naweza mwita another friend, let me just call her a friend, though she is more of a family friend. So ni wale family that become friends that become family. Unfortunately, her mom passed on, and she, after the mom passed on, she was taken to a certain orphanage still within Daragwa, but it wasn't. It was quite far from Daragwa town center. So after a few months of her being in that orphanage, I remember one time we were hanging out, and she told me how bad it was, how bad that orphanage was, how they weren't safe, and there were rumors. You see, I'm not sure if it was a true thing, but there were rumors that some of the teachers in that, some of the staff were taking advantage of the girls who were orphans, who were brought in that school. Imagine, that is not even new. Anyway, there were such rumors na nini. So she was telling me how bad it was and things of that sort. Wacha nisikwambie, I think a week or so later, I'm going through my grandpa's things. I used to snoop a lot, so don't mind. Anyway, I'm going through my grandpa's things, and I find a letter that my grandpa, I think, with my uncles, had written to the area chief. I don't know if it was already delivered to the chief, but I found that letter, and they were asking the area chief to grant them permission to have us sent. I think it was either permission or you need to add a recommendation letter or something. I don't remember what it was about, but it was, I don't remember why they had written to him specifically, the area chief, but it was about us going to that orphanage, the one that my friend was in. And given the background that I had for that orphanage, we orchestrated a plan with my brother, one of my brothers, and I went to the nun. Now, the nun that was in charge of the boys only orphanage that was already taking care of us. This other orphanage is a different one, but we iko the same area, but iko interior, iko ndani kabisa. It's still in Daragwa, but quite interior. And it was run by a private entity, but the one that was taking care of us was run by a Catholic institution under the Little Daughters of Saint Joseph. So I went now to the nun in charge, not took the one that talked to me. Uko shule na nini ndio introduced. I don't want to say their names because I'm not sure if they're comfortable with their names being out there. No, not the first nun, the one that took me in, the one that was teaching us. Another one that was in charge of the whole orphanage. And I went to her and I cried. I cried, telling her that our family was actually trying to, nilitumia the word wanataka kututupa, like they want to throw us away, they want to be done with us. And the reason I was, of course, the fear of that orphanage, given what my friend was telling me was happening there, was a factor. But the main motivation for me was realizing, na hiyo niko around 10 years, realizing that the people that were raising me didn't have the best intentions. By this, I mean, hiyo sasa yenye nasema issues to do with meals, you never had your meals taken care of, like you weren't prioritized. And I also understand we want their kids, so we weren't prioritized when it came to individuals inaitwaje, basic needs. Yeah, we want a priority, ni ikipatikana sawa, ikikosekana well and good. And then I had seen the relationship that they had. I have two older brothers with my brothers, and it wasn't even a relationship, ilikuwa tu hata sijui naweza iclassify aje, because they used to be mistreated, their fees wasn't paid, and then they used to get, I don't know why I keep, anyway, I, they used to, like when it came to things like meals na nini, wanapimiwa, wanaambiwa things like, for you, someone your age is supposed to eat these grams of food in a day. So even at the end of the day, when we give you this packet of flour, you only about maybe a kg of flour, it should last you a week, the two of them a week. These are kids in high school, they are growing, they're supposed to be eating like it's the end of the world, but they're being told 1,000 grams of maize flour should last them a week. And ioni as breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And when these conversations are happening, I'm present. I know what they're talking about. So at the back of my mind, I knew if these same people that are treating my brothers like this, are the ones who want to take me to this orphanage, there is never a bone in them. There's nothing in them that would make me think they're actually doing a good thing, ama they're doing a thing that will actually benefit me. This is the mentality I had as a 10-year-old. So when I'm going to this nun, talking to her and crying, telling her about what was happening and things of that sort, I'm motivated by what I've seen happening to my brothers. The reason it was happening to them specifically Niju, they were older than me. I think we have about 8 year gap with the brother I'm following. And I think I was too young to be treated the way they were treating my brothers. At some point, I was also treated the same, but I think by that time, I was too young to be treated like that. So I talked to her, and Nini, she told me that was fine. She was going to handle it. But the conversation that we had, she told me not to tell anyone, like to just go back home. And I think she told me to talk to my brother because of course, my brother was older than me. When they go talk to her, not both of them, like one of the brothers, the one that we had orchestrated this plan with, I go talk to him and tell him to go see her the coming Sunday. I think on that the day I went to talk to that nun was a holiday, and it was, I think, either Wednesday or Thursday. So she told me by that Sunday at this time, let them come and see me, but I don't want anyone else to know what you've told me. Don't talk to anyone, don't tell them what is happening. So I went back home, and my brothers talked to them. I don't know what happened between me talking to that nun to the day that we were told to report with our suitcases, with our shopping and things of that sort. I don't know what happened. Like, I don't know what discussions were had in between, because now they were going through my brothers, one of them. So finally took a join. Now the nun had to create space for girls to come and join, and we started as 3 girls. And I remember our oldest brother, Aki, to drop at that orphanage with our shopping and everything, and um, sitting there. There's a way that orphanage was set up, where it was built. It was like ilikuwa ni kama tumilima tuwili, and then in between there is a river. So the orphanage was built on one hill, and then the road back home would pass through that river, and then towards the other hill. Like, I don't know how to explain it. It was to the okay. The easiest way for me to put this in words would be, when my brother left and he was going home and things of that sort, I was sat at a place where I could see him as he was walking over the other hill going home. And I remember crying. I think I was alone, or I was, because I back then I never used to cry in front of people. I still don't like it, but I remember crying while I was looking at him going. I remember crying and feeling so uh so sad. Like, I was so sad that this was happening, that this was actually what our life had come to be. But then again, tukasaviwa very nice meals. Truly, we found them eating meat and rice, and it was a lot. Like, the food was on the plate was could have fed 2 grown men. But anyway, so we were served, we were given a very nice supper. So I was ilata kulia, and the sadness and everything went away. That's how I joined the orphanage. And I was under the care of the sisters until I was around, not even around, until I finished my campus. So from the age of about 8, 9 years to 26, relatively there. 26 years old. And in between, being under them, being taken care of them, remember, these are also human beings. They're also going through their own frustrations, and sometimes it would bleed on us. And that's all I'm going to say on that. And okay, in between, what I can also add, in between, you meet a lot of people. Like, in between me joining the orphanage to the point where I was exiting, I'm to the point where now I want to now go into why I became what I became, was you met a lot of people from different backgrounds, and some of these people, of course, work on issues now, just like me. I'm coming from a home, I'm an orphan, I'm coming from a place where I'm feeling abandoned, I'm feeling left, I'm anxious about a lot of things. I didn't even know back then it was anxiety. For me, it was coming out as aggression. If I wasn't getting something, I felt like I wouldn't get it again, so I would become very aggressive, very rude, very things of that sort. So you're coming from you're coming into a situation where other people have faced other things, and it made them to be Sun is the same. Agents of chaos. I think that would be the best term. Agents of chaos. And they would talk about you, say a lot of things about you. Like I said, I was that open minded child, that one that was never hesitant to say what was on her mind. And most often than not, it wasn't the nicest thing to say. So it was easy, even on occasions where I wasn't the one doing something wrong, it was easy for them to pin it on me. And it caused a lot of chaos in the relationships I was trying to have with the nuns at that orphanage. And for them, the easiest way was to pull back a few supports. Even on top of that, we are also coming from a family where most of my family members, the ones that are supposed to be taking care of us, they are known in that area, and they are not known as poor people. They are known as people who have taken care of themselves. I remember even that orphanage was having some type of construction going on, and one of the people that had gotten a contract with that orphanage was a relative of ours. It was a distant relative, not an immediate family member, but not that distant as well. And these nuns knew that these people were my family. So they withdrew their support in terms of things like shopping, things like upkeep, things like fare. I couldn't get it, while the other kids were being given this, they were being taken care of in those areas. But what I was told was, your uncles are able to afford this, you go ask them. Your family is rich, they're able to buy you these things, you go and ask them. And remember, this is the same family that was telling my brothers that they can't um they they need to. Every time I remember these things, I've tried so much to forget them, and every time I remember them, it brings up other memories. Anyway, these are the same people that were inaitwaje, walikuwa wanapimia my brothers the food most of the time. Like, it was just for us as kids to get basic needs, ilikuwa a lot of problems. So they're telling me to go back to these family members. And what do you think happened? Nothing. Like, the support, ukienda sasa, what was actually happening, even when I say nothing, what was actually happening, you'd go to one relative and they will tell you, go to the other one, go to the other one. You go to the other relative, and then they're telling you, you have to speak to the other relative. You go to the other relative, and then they're telling you, you people still owe me money for sijui something that was done sijui when. So at the end of the day, you live there feeling more frustrated than actually getting help. Some of them used to even say that we didn't even, now when they wanted to take us to an orphanage, we decided to do our own thing and to go to another orphanage. So why are we even coming to ask? And the funny thing, the sad thing is, our family is, well, naweza semaje, they're not afraid to be rude to you no matter your age, or to tell you things that maybe a child shouldn't be told even at that time. And ilikuwa so unfortunate because we used to hear these things a lot. So the nuns, they are taking care of my fees, my tuition, and everything that is needed by the school. So they used to write a check to the school. So you don't even have a way of saying, let me pinch like 200 shillings so that I can pay the fare to go to school. They're telling you to go back to your family and ask for things like fare, you ask for things like shopping and things of that sort. And then your family is the one that is telling you, go to this person, go to the next one, go to the next one. At the end of the day, you've talked to every family member, only to get things like to so to get things like 500 shillings. And above it all, I'm not blaming them. I'm just saying, you like, I understand we were not the priority because we weren't their kids. So I do understand that. But that was what was happening. And then on top of it, there was a point in time, I think, where I don't know if it was my brother or my grandfather, I don't remember, that they got in touch with. They were able to get us a government, in it, a government what? The one that they got some money. The government used to set, I don't know if it still does, set aside some money to be given to orphans. And I think orphans and widows, but I think ilikuwa mostly orphans. And most of the time ilikuwa like 2K every 2 months, if I'm not wrong. So ilikuwa like 1K a month. 2K every 2 months. And when that money started coming in, now these family members na nini, they used to tell us if we asked for anything, zile pesa za orphan mulifanyia nini, like that was usually the statement. And then you go back to the person who is supposed to get the money, which was mostly our grandfather, given he was the guardian. And then he is telling you things like, the money did come in, but we went to pay for we went to clear a debt for a certain shop because we were taking the flours, we were taking the sugars and the oil, cooking oil from them. So we went to clear that debt. So you're there stranded, you have the check to go back to school, but you don't have fare. Now the fare that you were expecting imetumika kufanya vitu zingine. Again, I'm not blaming them. I'm not trying to poke at old wounds. I'm just saying what was happening your time. So ndio huyo mimi nimeingia high school sasa. And high school bado ni the same issues, the same problems, to the point where I think a lot of people, most people did realize something was wrong or something was going on, because at some point I remember a friend of mine, nikiwa form 1, form 2, used to buy shopping and share with me. There was a time she came to help me organize my box, and it used to be a huge box, a huge box. But sasa uniform tu ndio ziko ndani. I don't have shopping, I don't have soaps, I don't have anything. And the funny thing, while I was going through that, it never used to hit home. Like I never spent any time feeling sad na nini because I don't have this, I don't have that. Whenever things, the relatives and people of that sort used to say, you go ask for this person, sijui pesa za nini, like they weren't willing to help immediately when you asked for help. Maybe they were willing, but maybe walikuwa hawana hiyo uwezo hiyo time. But every time something that like that would happen, I would not sit and start breaking down or start thinking things over. What I would do was, I would get myself together and look for a way to solve it. So unapata kama kuna someone who needed help, and then when you're in Shags, kuna these things that they call vibarua, which is laborer basically. I used to join people who are going for vibaruas na nini. You go, you get your few coins here and there. So by the time you're going back to school, at least the least you can have is your fare. Because now the nuns, what they used to say is, here's the check. If I see you around Ndaragwa, we are going to terminate your scholarship. So my struggle mostly ilikuwa nitafute those few coins so that I can at least get to school. Hizo stories zingine za soap na nini, toiletries and things of that sort would come later. And the good thing is, I've just remembered, the good thing is I had a few good Samaritans here and there that were female that used to buy me sanitary pads na nini whenever they could. So I never lacked. Hapo kwa sanitization, I don't think I lacked necessarily. But now we're going now into high school, and then we will get now to where the issue with depression and suicidal thoughts came in. So let's go to part two.